The most frustrating thing is tracking your calorie intake, and the most common problem people don't see is that they misinterpret the labels on their food because they don't understand serving size, calories, and how to track it. So in today's video, we're going to really break this down to a very, very simple level for anyone to understand using the macronutrient part of a nutrition label. When I grab something out of the pantry, the first thing I'm always going to look at is going to be the serving size, because the serving size is going to set the context for everything below this bar. And another thing that's very important is to look at how many servings are in the entire container. This is how people kind of mess up with chips. They see a bag of chips, it's like, oh, 140 calories per serving. I probably only had 2 servings. And they think that's like, a third of the bag. But a third of the bag is actually like 4 out of 12 servings because they didn't contextualize this, and this. So do not be that person, because it's going to cost you months of fat loss that you worked so hard for, but just crumbled because you didn't read a label properly, which just demonstrates how important it is. And the easiest thing to read is going to be the calories per serving, 110. And a quick note is that kcal is the exact same thing as calories. And calories are a measurement unit for energy that you can expend from the food. Below this 110 calories, we see macronutrients, sodium, and cholesterol all listed out with a daily value percent thing on the side. Me personally, I ignore most of these daily values because they're outdated and based on a 2,000 calorie diet. To represent how outdated it is, it would assume 50 grams of protein is enough for that individual. And a lot of research shows that if you want the optimal public health, something like 90 to 100 for that 2,000 daily value would actually be a whole lot better than 50. But this is not about protein, so I will digress straight into the fats, something that we see so demonized. And of course, for fat, we're going to segregate the things people think are bad about them into saturated and trans fat, while the other things just fall under total fat. Each gram of this total fat is equal to 9 calories. And as we move down, we get to cholesterol and sodium. Both are measured in milligrams. There are 2 very important things people like to track and associate with blood work. But under that, we see something even more complicated, which is going to be carbohydrates. This total carb number might not actually be the amount of carbs you're digesting. That is actually going to be a good thing for your calorie intake. And a lot of labels kind of mess this up because they say total carbs and not the net carbs. To figure out the net carbs that you're actually digesting, you take this total carb minus dietary fiber. Because fiber is something you don't digest, it sits in your gut, it feeds a bunch of cool little bacteria stuff in your gut to keep you healthy. What we want to do is take these 20 grams of evil carbs and subtract them by our 5 grams of our heroic fiber, and we're just stuck with these 15 grams of net carbs. Not every nutrition label is going to do this. A lot of things that do are things that want to opt for that keto audience, just because they're the ones that actually read that and care. But that is how you read the carbohydrates. And of course, something you always have to look at is there is this added sugar part under the total sugars. A really quick way to tell if something is healthy is if it has a lot of added sugars and a lot of trans fat, that shit ain't healthy. And it's that simple. And protein cannot be any harder. It is just the amount of grams in the shitty daily value. But something to note about carbs is a gram of carbs has 4 calories, and so does a gram of protein. And that's how you get your total calories. Fat plus protein plus carbs. And I know what you're thinking. That is so simple, I don't understand how people can mess it up. And honestly, it is that simple. It is just that this shit is not taught in schools or anywhere else. So you got to go online somewhere like here to learn how to kind of contextualize all of it and see it really well. And I'm going to show you 2 more so you can think about it for yourself, and you can kind of see how unhealthy labels look extremely similar to healthy ones like this one, because if you don't look at these grams, you can't really tell if this number is bad. You don't know how much food it takes to get to this number unless you have what's up here. And by first look at this example, the first thing you should notice is that the serving size is 60 grams and there's only 1 serving per container, which means this is exactly what you're unwrapping, what you see on this. This would be something like a granola bar, a pair of fruit snacks, just something single serving, which is really, really awesome for tracking your calories because it keeps it super easy. And it makes it very clear this 180 calories is for the entire thing, and these 7 grams of fat, 2.5 saturated, and all this applies to that. And you can kind of assess if you think this is healthy and fits in your diet by just looking at these macronutrients and the calories. But if you took a close look, something you're going to see is this sugar alcohols. What the hell is that? You don't really need to know. It's a bunch of kind of complicated chemistry shit. But if you remember how we took the total carbs and subtracted it by the fiber, If we have something like sugar alcohols, we take that shit and subtract it again because that's just what they do. Because what they do is just sit in your stomach and feed that shit or just come out in your shit. So really, just the same thing, negates those calories and kind of gets you to a better total if you're looking for fat loss. And of course, there's 29 grams of protein, probably signals something to you where you can guess what it is. And that would be a Quest S'mores protein bar. A lot of people would think that doesn't seem as healthy as what's on this label. And that's the entire point of the micronutrient label. Things can be macronutrient healthy, but are they micronutrient abundant? This is where we separate the quality of proteins from protein bar, plant protein to beef protein and stuff like that. But again, if you want more abs and musculature, it's kind of the macros that are going to matter just a little bit more the first time you get there, and then worry about the micronutrients because that is how you're going to get to your goal faster and easier. Still stick around for this last label because you're about to see how you've been being taken advantage of by big companies using these labels to their advantage instead of yours. So, looking at this label, the first thing that should jump out to you is there's 19 servings in this whole thing. So if you eat this innocent bag, that's 140 times 19, and I guarantee you, you whip out this bag, you're eating half of it, and I know it's true because I've done it all the fucking time. And it's M&Ms. These 32 pieces is 1 ounce. If you tell me you're stopping at an ounce of M&Ms, you are bad shit crazy because you're finishing at least a third of that bag, and I don't blame you. But what you need to notice is looking at this label, you might think, third of that bag won't hurt, 140 calories, 32 pieces is a lot, and you're just not getting great context from this label, and that's how the company is kind of taking advantage of you. But if we look at the macro split, what we can see is all of these things, and this added sugar thing, it just shows how hidden it is. Some people might skip past this and not see how actually awful that is. And it's the exact same thing with the saturated and trans fat. This is a sneaky saturated fat where if you have to watch that because of your LDL level, this shit will stack up so fast, it will blow your mind. What you really, really need to do is make sure you read these labels and understand your dietary requirements. Having a general calorie estimate is always good for overall health, so you understand what you're doing to your body. But really tracking the saturated fat, especially as you get older, is super important because you don't want to eat yourself into heart issues. Tracking your sodium is more irrelevant than you think it is, because if you are active and moving around, you are going to use that salt for these muscles to contract and extend. And the main point of these nutrition labels is they're simpler than they look, and companies are going to try to do fudgy things like this with a lot of rounding and making a small portion size so they can fit it into something that looks more generally healthy. Because as we can see, this serving of M&Ms compared to the first thing, that was a serving of pinto beans, 30 more calories, and it's not even a quarter of the weight. So you really need to watch these labels because they're going to change how your body looks forever once you understand it. And if you want more content like this, subscribe for more because there's always something you can do to make your life healthier.